Hi guys, Bruce Zachary and Miles DeBenedictis, the directors of the Calvary Church Planting Network, and we're pleased to have with us today Pastor Steve Ogne. Steve is the author of the book Transformational Coaching. And just to give you a quick sense, some of the endorsements that begin this book are from Bill Eason, Leighton Ford, Paul Ford, Bob Logan, Alan Hirsch. Some of the most influential people in church planting and coaching circles are the people who have endorsed this work, and that's because, Pastor Steve, you have been one of the pioneers in the church planting movement. As a matter of fact, many of the church planting networks can directly trace their origins to Steve's work in the Church Plant Incubator and some of his works on coaching, and in this work, Transformational Coaching. It's an excellent read. But not only is Steve a knowledgeable and a wise sage in this arena, he's also a friend of the Calvary Church Planting Network, and he's been working with Pastor Miles and I and others in the Church Planting Network. I want to take an opportunity to get some expert counsel from Pastor Steve. So, Steve, welcome. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. My privilege to be with you guys.
Now, you've been working with Miles and I during this last year and helping us in the Church Planting Network. I wanted to ask you, what are some of your impressions of the Calvary Church Planting Network?
I'm very excited to be a part of working with these guys on the Calvary Church Planting Network. It's quite unique in a couple of ways. First of all, it's come about as a grassroots movement from among the church planters as opposed to a top-down denominational strategy, and that's really good. Secondly, and the thing that I'm probably most excited about with the movement is their commitment to have it be a mentor-driven movement with church planting mentors who are investing in local men from their congregations to become church planters. That process adds to the character and the credibility of everything that we're doing, as well as the ability to multiply rapidly.
Now, you've worked with a lot of denominations and a lot of networks, and you've been working with us, and you've seen the efforts that have taken place in just over 1 year. And what are some of your impressions about how we've come along to date?
Well, I guess I have several. One of the things, several things that impressed me. One of them is the Calvary Chapel Church Planting website as a resource. The volume of tools that are there, the up-to-dateness of those, the dialogue that's taking place through the blogs, one of the best resources that I've seen. Also in that category of resources, the Church Planter's Manual that you, Bruce, have put together. I've seen a lot of those, and I got to frankly say some of them not so good. But yours is very complete and very well contextualized to the Calvary Chapel, and I'm really excited to see it being downloaded regularly and used in mentor relationships between mentor and church planter to help those church planters move forward.
What are some of the characteristics and some of the action items that you think would make us more effective moving forward? Some of the things that we can focus on as leaders in this network?
Well, one of the things that you've said you're committed to is the idea of being a mentor-driven network. And so being committed to the development of the mentors is what's going to drive this thing forward. I have to say for a moment, as wonderful as the website is, we're a little bit website-driven right now, and we want to be mentor-driven. So that'll be an important shift. And I was thinking about it coming over today, and for the mentors, we need to provide three things. We need to provide some incentive, some equipping, and some accountability. And in our conversation later today, maybe we'll have a chance to unpack a little bit more of what that's going to look like in this movement. But repeatedly I see, those are the things that are required.
Do you want to elaborate briefly on some of those characteristics of the incentive, the equipping, etc., for those who are watching this video?
Sure. Incentive, well, it's clear in this particular movement that incentive is what it's not going to be. It's not going to be a financial incentive. And that's good, because that actually creates opportunity for greater multiplication. But we need to find other kinds of incentive, and probably in a spiritual sense, our greatest incentive is the clarity and understanding of our call, and that our pastoral calling include the raising up of other pastors and the multiplication of churches. Most all of us have a pastoral calling, but we haven't expanded it to that level to include those particular activities. And when those activities become part of your call, and you're just as passionate about that as you are about preaching on Sunday, now you've got incentive. Now, in order to do that, you also need some equipping. We've all been equipped to study the Bible, and we've been equipped to preach the Bible, and we've either been equipped or we figured out how to make a congregation work, but we haven't necessarily been equipped on how to mentor or coach somebody else through that process. And so there's some very specific and important equipping that needs to take place. And then lastly, accountability. All of us are really busy, and we're busy doing all kinds of really good things for God. And the only way that church planting and mentoring of church planters is going to stay on our plate and get us our attention is if we're accountable for that in some way. And usually some of the best accountability comes through peer accountability. When you demonstrate that commitment to another pastor, another Calvary Chapel, or to a cluster of pastors who, when you're together, routinely ask you, how are you doing with mentoring a church planter? How's that process going, and what progress are you making?
Finally, let me ask, based on your impressions, and again, you work with a lot of denominations, a lot of networks, not only in the United States, but internationally. What is your impression of the future in the Calvary Chapel movement in light of what's going on with the Church Planting Network?
Well, I think the amount of interest you guys have got back through the website, and you know the numbers better than I do, but it's a huge percentage in comparison to the number of Calvary Chapels. Now, we have a lot of Calvary Chapels internationally, but you know, the potential for more is upwards of the 30-40% rate. And as Bruce pointed out in a conversation earlier today, anything at 10% or more is considered a healthy rate of reproduction. So the potential for reproduction is great, and for that I'm very excited. Now, the little bit of prophet in me has to throw in one other thing, and that is, as I look back to and as I understand and have walked alongside and watched the Calvary Chapel movement over a couple of decades, I'm very excited that those new churches have a very high commitment to the reaching of lost people and not just the discipleship of Christians. We can do the best teaching in the world, and in so doing draw lots of people from other churches to fill our congregations and not have built the kingdom very much. So what we want to do in the planting of new churches, as we all know, church planting is in fact the most effective way to reach lost people, but only if we connect with lost people. And so paying attention to that in our church planting strategies and our ministries, that the church is both for the found and for the lost, is very important.
Amen. So we just want to encourage you guys. Transformational Coaching is a fantastic read by Pastor Steve and Tim Rowe. We want to encourage you also that Steve is available to serve as a coach to individual planters, individual mentors, and his contact information is available through the CCPN site. So thank you very much, Pastor Steve. We appreciate you being with us and your help in the successful launch of the Church Planting Network. And blessings to you.
Thank you, and you're welcome. Keep up the good work.
Amen.